Hi, and thank you so much for popping by. My name is Bita Pobaluzwi. Feel free to call me Bui. In my former years, this magazine was published in March 2005, and this is a time when I worked as an editor of this magazine. It was called Flair, and a time when we were given an opportunity to speak with a former president, Lieutenant General Ian Khama. Now, the reason I have this magazine is because it carries one of the first stories I ever wrote about three women who were living with HIV. And these are stories that mean this story meant a lot to me. And one of the reasons why I am here today in the United States doing my PhD with a focus on health communication and looking at areas such as stigma communication. Now, the reason I mention this magazine is because the president in this interview actually mentioned that his favorite color is blue. And in contrast with the ruling party and in alignment with the current umbrella for democratic change, it's interesting that this blue is now the sea of blue that we see in Botswana. One of the reasons I'm reminded about this magazine is because, in comparison to this era where the former president, Lieutenant General Ian Khama, was seen as hostile towards Botswana media, particularly the Botswana private sector media, in comparison, of late, the same man is very media savvy. I saw quite a few interviews of him once President Mr. Duma Boko was elected into power. And one thing that I think really stands out for me about Lieutenant General Ian Khama is that he is now a very media savvy person. He is someone who is very strong at creating narratives and rhetorics. And I want to see how his relationship is going to play out with the current president. And I hope that the current president does not repeat the same mistakes as the former administrators, because media is a partner in democracy. Media is not the enemy. And just to emphasize that the current president, Mr. Boko, does not need to repeat the same mistakes that the former presidents did in the previous administrations. But yeah, it was very interesting. Let me see what he was saying here. So, like I'm saying, this story was the first time that in 2005, many years ago, it was the first time I interviewed these three women who shared their experience with living with HIV. If you remember, 2002 was when the Southern African region was declared the epicenter of the HIV and AIDS pandemic or epidemic. And therefore, it was so important for these stories to be heard. But the same magazine is the same magazine where I had the opportunity to interview the former president, Lieutenant General Ian Khama, at his home. And yeah, let me see what did we title the story, by the way. Just give me a second. Let's see what was the story. Oh, if I can find it. Oh, okay. Right. The story we titled Destiny's Child. Yes, this was in 2005, March edition of Flair magazine. We titled the story Destiny's Child. As you can imagine, Lieutenant General Ian Khama is the son of the first president of Botswana, President Khama. Yeah, his favorite color was definitely blue. As you can see, he's holding this piece of paper in front of him. And I can promise you, we were not allowed to go away from what was in here. This Lieutenant General Ian Khama was a very controlled environment. This interview was a highly controlled environment. I was not able to ask any of the questions that I really wanted to ask. I walked away with just a little bit of what I was supposed to know. So yeah, this is definitely one of those interviews where it was great to have the opportunity, but I felt like I could have done more, but there was very little more that I could have done. We got to know a little bit more about who he is as a person, right? The fact that he didn't like hot and spicy Indian dishes, those were his least favorite. His favorite color is blue. Um, and how he wanted to continue to do the charitable work that his mother, Lady Khama, was highly involved with. Um, the moments that he cherished most about his childhood. Um, in fact, what he says, what I can remember and cherish most about my childhood is the times we had together as a family. Because in those days, I went to school outside the country and my sister as well. So I didn't always see a lot of her and of my parents. Even when I got back, my father was always working, he recalls. So whatever time we had as a family, especially when we went away on holiday to the cattle coast, are moments that I cherish. He also enjoys camping. Um, and interestingly, when I asked him, being a political leader and the son of one of Africa's best leaders, who does he look up to? Excluding, of course, his own father, President Khama. I quote him, "No one stands out," he replies. When you talk about leaders, there are political leaders, religious leaders, royals, and people in the area of sport. In each category, there have been a number of people that are well known to us, but no one in particular stands out. And something interesting that he said, and like I said before, he was a fitness fanatic. His day started at 5 in the morning when he went to the gym or to train, and then he heads to the office where he starts work at 7:30 in the morning, and after work he goes again straight to the gym to do another hour. And I quote him, "I think it is very essential for everyone to be fit and healthy," he explains. And this is why I think, to a certain degree, the current president also has a role, whether it's through him or his first lady, to take up some of these public health concerns. Since 2005 until now, we do have a situation of non-communicable diseases in Botswana. So, yeah. And something else that was interesting about what he said here is that although he's in a very public job, Khama is quite the opposite in personality and character and as compared to today, right? He said here, I quote him, "People who have gone into politics in most cases are people who had that type of character to go into politics, who are outgoing, who enjoy a high profile and want a high profile. By nature, in my life, I have always wanted to maintain a low profile. When I go and do public speaking or rallies, I'm always uncomfortable because I don't enjoy the profile. I prefer being in the background if I can. It is not that I don't want to be close to people or not to be approachable, but that is just one's own character." Just the same with the charities. It's just to be able to mobilize funding to help people without having to take all the credit. And I think this is such a different character to him at the moment. Like I said, I've noticed that he's grown into become a very media savvy, a very accessible person to the media over the years, and as compared to his time in the presidency when his administration was seen as very hostile to the media and particularly the private sector media. Let me see what else he said. And I asked him what is one key valuable lesson that he's learned over the years. And he said, "I have always wanted to be judged by my actions and not necessarily words. I have always looked at myself to see what role a citizen should play in that country. Mine is to work in harmony with other citizens," he says. "The only way to really achieve that is to be tolerant because people come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and characters. You will always be challenged for one reason or the other. I think if everyone was to exercise tolerance, that would make for better unity amongst us. And one of the things he hates about people, or one of the things he identified in this article when it comes to people that irritate him, is that he doesn't like arrogant or selfish people. That people who cause society to divide are some of the characters that he didn't like. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, I don't know. This magazine, like I said, this magazine, I carry it not because necessarily of Ian Khama, but I carry it because this magazine, published in March 2005, was the first ever HIV related story that I wrote with 3 women who were living with HIV. And yeah, it's interesting how time flies and how characters change. Because, like I said, now we know for a fact that Ian Khama is a very media savvy person. Yeah, very willing to share his thoughts and opinions with the media today. All right, my friend, I hope you're having a lovely day where you are. But most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.